Bad Drew, what's
What
good?
up? What up? Don't say it like that.
I tried to give you a little West Coast, you know what I
No,
mean?
no,
But
no.
I'm gonna go.
It's too aggressive. I was like, whoa,
I'm
what?
gonna go back to the.
Uh,
I'm gonna go back to the East Coast. I'm gonna go back to the softening East Coast vibe of Bad Drew.
there you go. There you go. I saw. I was sitting there watching. Reading DJ Quick's tweets. That was interesting. He's over here. Talking about his legacy or whatever.
Yeah, I saw that earlier. He said he wasn't ranting or nothing like that. He just said he was just saying what he was saying. You know what I mean? And I think every once in a while he got a peak, but I don't know. It kind of sounded like, in my opinion, it just sounded like a cry for attention. You know what I mean? Like I don't. I know I'll never get the notoriety. And people say that that means they really want the notoriety, but they just, you know what I mean? They're saying they'll never get it, so maybe now they'll get it. Not saying that they're not gonna get it, but I don't know. It is what it is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Only read a few tweets. I didn't really get through all of it, but I recognize DJ Quick. Man, I've been rocking with DJ Quick since the beginning, like back in the day. So I knew of his input, and plus there are a lot of Pittsburgh people over in on the West Coast involved in the Pittsburgh sound, like Melly Mel, Butter, and different ones like that working with Dre. So we was tapped in a little bit on the Pittsburgh side, so we kind of knew what was going on. And I rock with DJ Quick, so he don't gotta sell it to me. I know what it is.
yeah. He already in the song a long time ago had that little I don't care because I'm underground anyway. So he
Yeah.
already kind of talked about this to me years and years ago. So it's obviously something where every now and then it get to him.
You know,
I just wonder what the trigger was.
I was just about to ask that. Like, it could be triggered a number of different ways. You know what I mean? Like, he could just be. I think I just saw something about Dre online. To be honest with you, Dr. Dre. What's the difference? I just saw something about Dr. Dre up there. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe something just sparked it. I don't know. Maybe he was reading something in the timeline or something to say, you know, it's time for me to assert my let the people know the fuck I am. Maybe that was the deal.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? 'Cause sometimes you just got. I would rather the tone be a little more assertive than passive. You know what I mean? I'd rather just be like, yo, I'm just here to get my props. I want to thank me for being the greatest producer. Just be on your Snoop Dogg. I just want to thank me for being the greatest producer that I know. I want to thank me for producing all the records that I produced. You know what I mean? Come with that bravado. I might rock with you a little bit more. They're like, okay, well, I see you, bro.
Yeah, yeah. Or just call up the biggest person you could do a song with and just do it.
And just do the song and let them know, like, this. I thought I was out here playing. I got hits. I just made
Yep.
another hit. Talk that shit. You know what I mean? Do something,
Yep. Because
but
that's what put you in that conversation. Like it could be true, but the conversation is, you know, it's on that forum. So if you talk your shit, but at the same time, why not just pull another one out? Put the world back
exactly.
on fire. Get motherfuckers back on your dick.
Yo, then
Because he definitely could do it.
send the message, my brother. You seem to have a line of communication. Send a letter. Send a line, my brother.
Yeah,
Word.
maybe he about to drop something. Maybe about to be like, and here's what I'm talking about. Bam.
This may be all that could be the trigger. The trigger could be, hey, we're about to drop some new music. Let me just start getting out there and letting people know who I am in preparation for this press run. That could be the move too. You know what I mean? Maybe he'll spark the conversation. Maybe Justin will jump on the conversation. Maybe Justin will put out a company man and say, hey, is DJ Quick, you know what I mean? Start doing, maybe this could be a thing. We'll see where this goes.
You know what? Maybe we should do a whole thing on like, you know, like a not like well, kind of like we miss you quick, but asking a question like, are you ready for another quick song? And if so, what would you want it to be like?
That's dope. I like that. And then maybe we
Who is
should have Quick on the show, and then maybe he can share some information about his favorite songs,
I want him
maybe
to, as
some
long
cool
as he
stuff he got
just
coming up.
read it. As
Huh?
long as he just read it or listen to people say, "Look, yeah, we looking for forward to your shit coming back, but I want to see you work with da da da." Like I want to see DJ Quick work with a couple of people, but two in particular. uh,
Cool.
uh, Andre 3000,
Oh, that'd be dope.
and a group called Little Dragon.
Mm, that sounds pretty dope.
Little Dragon is like a, I don't even know what to call that genre, but like some weird alternative shit. You know what I mean?
Well, I think that would be a dope topic for us to continue on Thursday. I think that'd be a dope topic, and then shine some light on the brother this holiday season. But today, our men versus women, the new East Coast versus West Coast BTSN Topic Tuesday. We're gonna get this thing jumping off in about 15 minutes. We'll let the room fill up. We got some more people coming in. Yeah, the company man has arrived.
Does see that? I thought I just see heal what you reveal. What does that mean?
Well,
Hey,
let's
what's going
see.
on here? What you reveal? What does that mean?
Huh?
Hear what
I
you
said,
reveal.
what does that mean? Is that a company? Is that just your name on there? Is it a product?
My talk show I have it's for mental and emotional healing in the Black community. Uh,
Nice.
healing people, mentally and emotionally. So the name of the show is called "Heal What You Reveal," and it's based off of the premise of we've all got stigmas and traumas that we've been hurt by or affected by, and in order to truly heal from these things, you can't heal what you don't reveal. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I named the show "Heal What You Reveal."
Okay, dope, dope, dope.
Where's your where do you host your talk show?
Well, I've done ones like in person, like with actual cameraman and everything. I'm located in Los Angeles. I do like in person interviews, and I also interview people on Instagram Live on my on the Instagram page of my talk show.
Oh, that's
Nice.
dope. Yeah, we're based out of Los Angeles too.
Okay, cool, perfect.
Do you host it? Like do you host previous episodes,
Um,
or just kind of a?
it's kind of a
It's like,
yeah. I mean, I've got like on the page, I've got clips and stuff, reels, of all the in person interviews, Instagram Live, interviews. The next one I'm going to do in person. I'm gonna do in February. I'm gonna do it at this one venue with like an audience section and everything. I'm kind of like put something out on the internet just for people to come. Try to make it like a Black History Month type of gathering thing. That that's the next one I'm gonna do in person, which is in February. But like for people who's available when they can, I do it on Instagram Live, like whenever the person is available to do an interview if they're open to doing it. And right now I'm just like I said, next like in person with actual cameraman and stuff is in February, and right now that's just what I've been working on as far as getting that on network television. Just like I said, I want to really spread love and positivity to the Black community. And a talk show like this, you really don't see on television. And I really think that like something like this will create the domino effect of cleaning up some of the negative things that goes on in the Black community to help us heal.
Is heal what you reveal your
Yeah,
Instagram? That's you with the beard.
yeah, that's me. Yeah,
Okay, okay, yeah, no, the format is really good, man.
yeah. I got this one camera dude I was introduced to. He did like great work. Actually he's done work with who is it? He's done some work with Amazon Prime too. Like he's a legit cameraman, like worked on movie sets and shit. So somebody introduced me to him, and we got together 1 month, and he ended up doing that recording for me and shooting it.
All right.
well, yeah, man. Definitely, send me a link when you do your next live one. I'd love to check it out.
Okay, yeah, for sure, for sure. That's like also like I mean just to add up on that, like so that's kind of like phase one what I want to do, like that talk show helping with that. But also like with the funding and whatnot, what I want to do is just have like an like with the money and stuff that I can gain from that. getting this on network television, have like scholarship programs for people in the Black community, like more like after school programs just to keep people off the streets, just to keep them busy. You know what I mean? Keep away from gang violence. Help fund things in the Black community. Just It's just like different things I want to do with it. But like the talk show is like phase one, which is what I want to do with the whole helping the Black community thing.
Nice.
I like the Black community.
You said what?
Like,
I like the Black community.
as do we. I did check. I took a look at your Instagram here, which you revealed, sir. It looks very, very good. I like how it's laid out. The format is good. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Looks like it should be talking to
Yeah, no,
BTSN.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
yeah, you
All right,
definitely
man.
should stay in contact with Justin or JE, and maybe there's something there in terms of supporting, what you're doing, the content you're making.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that. I mean, it's also something I always wanted to do, and it gave me more time to do that because I played basketball. That was my thing, and then like so I played college. I played professional in France, and then so I got a deal to play in China in 2020, and that's when the coronavirus hit, and it was like, yeah, ain't no way in hell that we're gonna allow you to come over here. That's when the whole world shut down, and then from there, like I didn't have any once things opened back up with the coronavirus, like I didn't have any like offers or anything with playing overseas anywhere, so that like gave me more time to really like to set the parameters and really build shit with this talk show. So
Uh,
Where'd you play college ball?
I went to a HBCU called Lincoln University. It's in Missouri. I'm born and raised from LA, but that's where I ended up getting my basketball scholarship to go.
Hold up, they have an HBC. They have a Lincoln in Missouri. 'Cause the only Lincoln I know of is the one in PA, Pennsylvania, between Pittsburgh and Philly.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
got another. They
yeah,
got two Lincoln universities.
yeah. Sometimes if I wear my hoodie, like people will say, "Oh, from PA." I was like, "Nah, there's another Lincoln in Missouri. It's in Jefferson City, Missouri. Exactly. It's so the University of Missouri, that's in Columbia, Missouri. So Lincoln University is like it's literally like 25 minutes down the road from there. Yeah, but yeah, it's in a HBCU. It was a dope experience.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Well,
That
apparently there's 107 colleges in the HBCUs. How about that?
yeah, it's I mean, me being from LA is like HBCUs really isn't something that's like discussed about or really hyped up like that. And even me just going there initially, like I was just excited and happy, like, yo, I'm there on a basketball scholarship. I'm there to hoop. But
Hmm.
once I got there, like kind of opened my eyes up more to just certain things and certain similarities and certain differences in the Black culture based on what part of America you're at, whether the West Coast, the South, the East Coast.
Okay, I got it. So the difference between the two Lincolns, I had to look it up because I was concerned. 'Cause I live in Pittsburgh, and my dad went to Lincoln, so I'm really, on that type of time. So the difference between your Lincoln University, which is in Jefferson City, and the Lincoln one, and the Lincoln that's in Pennsylvania, is that the one that you went to is called Lincoln University. The one in Pennsylvania is the Lincoln University. So they added the in the front, so that distinguishes the two. So that's
Oh
that's pretty dope.
yeah.
How many HBCUs are in Missouri?
Honestly, I don't know. I'm
Two.
I'm not sure.
Two. Harrison State University is in St. Louis. Harris Stowe State University is in St. Louis, and Lincoln University is in Jefferson City. That would make two HBCUs in Missouri.
I feel like the closest thing in LA they have to HBCU is Dominguez Hills. That's where I always see like all the minorities going to school.
Yeah,
Yeah, because they have exactly no HBCUs in LA, exactly zero.
yeah, and also it's like I mean, fraternities and sororities. That's really not that big a thing, really, or like the drum line and stuff like that. So like me, like going into that school, like I really didn't care much for it, but like once homecoming weekend came, like I was like, God damn! Like I'm looking around, like people going crazy. I went to a step show. The crowd's going crazy. I didn't understand what the hell was going on, but they really do get hyped for that stuff. The drum line, all that stuff. And it was like a new like it was like more hype than a basketball game. I was like, damn, they really love this type of energy and stuff. And it was like a new experience for me. I ended up liking it. So it was a cool eye opening experience, liking different things, step shows. I was still never interested in joining a fraternity. But just seeing fraternities and sororities just doing their little step lines and stuff, like it was pretty interesting experience.
Well, that sounds pretty dope. Well, to stay on the kind of transition to the topic for the day, you are in the fraternity of men. And today we're talking about our men versus women, the new East Coast versus West Coast. Definitely want to get that conversation going. Please start tweeting this room out. We do want to grab a few more ladies in the room. We need some more ladies in the room to be able to balance out the conversation. But our men versus women, the new East Coast versus West Coast. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Um, let's see who we got. So we're gonna open up. We just opened up the room around 10 o'clock. We had a pre little conversation about HBCUs. We're sliding
Okay,
back into
in
our
the
conversation.
building.
Who's in the building?
Oh, my bad. Johnny K. What up, Johnny K?
Okay, I invited her to speak. All right, so yeah, so our men versus women, the new East Coast versus West Coast BTSN Topical Tuesday. Let's talk about it. The conversation will open up. We're gonna start the conversation officially around 10:25. We're going to try to let the room add up a little bit more, get a few more people in, and we're going to go ahead and get the conversation started. We got a good one. Here's a few things to think about as we're building out the show. I looked up a really great quote from Tupac. This is one of my favorite quotes, and this can kind of, I would say, guide the conversation, but kind of give us some good energy to kind of flow through the conversation. And the Tupac quote goes as such: "Since we all came from a woman, get our name from a woman, and our gain from a woman. I wonder why we take from women, why we rape our women. Do we hate our women? That's a question mark. I think it's time we kill for our women, be real to our women, try to heal our women. Because if we don't, we'll have a race of babies that will hate the ladies to make the babies. And since a man can't make one, he has the right to tell a woman when to wear to create one." Tupac Shakur. So again, that's just a little quote, a little something that was going on in my mind as we were thinking about our men versus women, the new East Coast versus West Coast. That can kind of guide the energy for the night. Most of the people on the call are adults, and we're coming to, so we're going to give good energy and give good vibe and good conversation around this topic. But ultimately, we want to identify ways that are being used, the divisive ways. We want to identify what's being divisive and what's being used to take us apart. But also, we want to identify and celebrate the ones who are doing great things to make sure that men versus women is not an issue, at least in our community. So let's talk about it. Men versus women. Is that the new East Coast versus West Coast BTSN Topical Tuesday?
Sure. I guess if it's cool, I guess I'll start off with it. Uh, but I mean, looking back, I mean, through the '90s, I wasn't even a teenager yet, but based on the music, like I still listen to that music, and based on like certain beefs and albums, the content and whatnot, and then you compare it to when it comes to the whole men versus women thing, how we treat each other. You see things over social media, like I think that a lot of the disconnect that's similar with the East Coast West Coast rap thing, and the disconnect between men and women today is a similar disconnect is egos. We men and women have a problem, as a whole, like letting go of our ego and looking at whether certain spaces or podcasts or reels on Instagram. You're looking at, for me, from what I've seen, is just so many men and women like, yo, I'm a high value man or I'm a high value woman, and they're saying, yo, no, I'm the prize, no, I'm the prize, no, you got to do this, no, you got to do that. And with the whole drop in the ego thing, I say that because not necessarily the person's not the prize. You got so many women saying they're the prize. You got men saying, no, we're the prize. When in actuality, it's the relationship that's the prize. What you guys have together, that bond is the prize. Because you come across people that has had good relationships with you, pleasant relationships. And you've had also people that's had bad experiences with you as well. But really, it's the relationship that's the prize. And you look at East Coast, West Coast rap, we missed out on a lot of collaborations based off of that East Coast, West Coast beef and the whole ego thing. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I feel like mentally we get that concept down that it's not the person that's the prize. It's the relationship and that bond that you guys have and that foundation through within life together. That relationship is the prize, you know? But there's so many egos, and especially over social media, you see so many people with egos not wanting to admit they're wrong, trying or not wanting to open up. You know what I mean?
I like the way you said that. You know what I mean? Like it's the prize. The relationship is the prize. You know, I don't think I've heard enough of that perspective because I feel like I hear high valued whoever all the time.
Yeah,
But
and
what's
like like to piggyback on that, like say for me, like I can say, yeah, I'm a high value man, but that's not what I'm bragging off of. I'm going based off of my actions. I'm not going to tell you I'm a high value man. You're going to feel that based on how I treat you. You know what I mean? My actions line up with my words. And and like for me, the definition of like there's women who think, not all women. I'm not general. Like I'm just saying. I'm gonna get to men and women. When it comes to women, like how I've seen a lot of women think they're high value. Like there's women who has like all these like high fashion clothes that gets a lot of attention on social media, or they seriously think that they've got options in the dating world because you have a lot of people in your DMs. Having a lot of people in your DMs and then having actual realistic dating options are two completely different things. And when it comes to men thinking that they're high value, they may think that they're high value because of maybe how much they earn a year, or women may think a man's high value because of how much they earn a year. When really it doesn't matter, a man or a woman, you're high value based on your character and your mindset and your work ethic. If you have that character to treat someone who's a millionaire the same as you do someone who works a regular 9 to 5 at Target, that to me is the definition of a high value person. Your character and how you treat people.
Mhm.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, and a lot of people tie their, oh, high value this or high value that. They tie that to things, to money or material things. And there's this quote by I'm sure you heard of a martial artist named Bruce Lee. He's got a quote that says, "The more you value things, the less you value yourself." And it's true based on like you treat someone differently. Oh, damn, he's got some expensive clothes on. You're going to treat that person different, or just yourself. Some people feel way higher or more confident with themselves wearing a Gucci hoodie than a regular Hanes hoodie. And they're breaking their back trying to work tooth and nail just to show that they've got money or to drive that Mercedes Benz. Or, you know what I mean? Like so many people are valuing things more than they value themselves. And they really don't even know what high value actually means. And that goes back to the ego, that let go of that ego and you can really see who's really a high value person if you solely base it off of their character they treat you and how they treat others, and especially how they treat others. Like, oh, this person can't do anything for me. So how people will kiss ass or suck up to the person that could truly help them out and help out their future. But how do you treat someone that can't do nothing for you?
Right. But I think it also goes to like this and this is just me. I may be a little bit of a chauvinist. I'm not going to say that, but somebody else may. But it's a little bit emasculated, like going to further into emasculating men because as a man, when did the conversation shift to? Because if we're going to go versus, then we're going like competitive nature of things, or just the nature of versus is like, as a man, I don't feel any verses with women. I don't feel competitive to women. I don't feel like I see a woman, I want to compete with her in something. Not saying that like, and part of that's because I'm internally, motivated and inspired to do things. So I'm not really, you know, competitive to others. I know I'm in a race against me, but I just never have felt like seeing a woman, like, I feel like it's a compliment to me in way more ways than I would ever be competitive. So the whole versus thing is like, the conversation itself to me is just odd. Not that we're having it, but that it's even a thing. It's like, dude, what are you, like, for example, Tori and Megan. You can't take sides on that as a guy. Like you, what? This is a. I'm not gonna jump on his side to be like boys against girls. Like I think that stopped going in like at 5 or 6 years old, like boys against girls. So I'm always looking at that narrative as something that's just like,
Or they used to
see
say
this.
bros versus hoes.
Yeah, that's stuff you get over when you're 19. I don't like. Why would you have a woman in a competitive like? We don't
Yeah,
have to compete against each other. I just
yeah.
don't see any win there.
Right. Like you're saying, like for you in your life, your lifestyle, you're not like that. But you definitely like we see that like under the comments and stuff when you're looking at this Tory versus Megan or any other thing. It's like there is a a competition when you said it exactly. There is no verses. We should be complimenting each other, but like every week we fail to take that initiative for us to compliment each other.
Yeah, because we starting to be too much like, hip hop makes some odd fucking trends. Like this calling girls bro, calling your girl bro is the oddest thing in the world to me. Especially, I don't know if that goes deep into romantic, like you kissing her like, bro, you so sexy. Like I don't know how far that goes for people who use the term, but just the things that bring you on that level with your girl or with women where first you calling them bros, then you socking them in the arm lightly, then you saying, I'm gonna knock that bitch out if she do this. Like that's a slippery slope. When a man start going versus a woman, like of course rap is an equal thing. So I don't feel anything about seeing because it's a mental thing. So when I see a battle like those battles where they have the men versus the women. I don't have any problem with that. I feel like he gonna tell her to suck a dick, she gonna tell him to suck a dick. Like everybody's gonna get violated verbally, but all the men bandwagon into yay because he's a dude is off to me. You know what I mean? And then anything contextually where the men are gathering on one side in a versus kind of context, even if it's just content wise, and the women on the other side. That seems like an automatic loss, down the line.
Yeah, and the whole like so like the comparisons with this, it's all around us, but the comparisons of like men versus women when you compare like okay, like is it like West Coast rap versus East Coast rap? It's people are being, I guess you would say, brainwashed. It's all around us. There's the verses on social media you see with men and women, or in the '90s, East Coast rap versus West Coast rap. Today, you're looking at like the left of right, or like Democrats, Republicans, or even just simply a sports show. That's a versus. Like ESPN First Take. You always okay. This is the subject, and two people are arguing, or with Skip Bayless or Shannon or Stephen A. Smith, and whoever he's. like even sports shows, all these shows are argumentative based, and also in under the comment section on social media, or whether you're talking about politics, it's always a me versus you type of thing, and that's taken over in so many things, whether sports, men versus women, or in rap music. It's it's surrounded all around, and another thing, the reason why it's still surrounding us is because it's getting the clicks, it's getting the views, people are giving it its attention. You know what I mean? So I don't know how to combat that or how to stop that, especially when it comes to men versus women. Because, like you said, we should be complimenting each other. But I don't necessarily know what would be the first step in order to reverse that. You know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's funny. It's funny the so when we talk about it versus like or and whether it's similar to East Coast versus West Coast, I feel like media played a really big role in East Coast versus West Coast. Like they really wanted that. That was a great story, and they played a role in it. You think media plays a role in this narrative, men versus women?
Uh,
Yeah, I do think. Let me interject real fast. I'm not, and my comments going to be quick. I do think that media is doing it. It's just not as salacious as East Coast versus West Coast was. I mean, East Coast versus West Coast was engaging. It was like it captured the news. But men versus women and placing each against each other has been something that's been forever. I mean, from the women's rights movement to now the feminist movement. Like there's a lot of what I mean, and then just women who are getting women who feel like they're getting paid less and things of that sort. So I feel like the media does it, but maybe in a passive way, not as assertive. But I do think the media does put forth some of those stereotypes.
But you think in an agenda way?
Let's let somebody else answer. What do you guys think? Do you think
I
that
mean,
the media?
I think so. I mean, it depends on which side of the aisle or which side of the media you're on. Like right wing media is hyper focused on manhood stories. You know, men's being statistically unhappy. More unhappy than they've been over a period of time. And the irony of those kind of stories is that, well, the men are unhappy, but the women are really happy. Women are happier than ever, right? And so, you know, when I see those kind of stories, yeah, I think it's a real issue that men are unhappy, but I don't think that men's happiness, I don't think that, you know, the solutions I hear over there about how to improve male happiness is comes at the expense of women, and I don't think that should be the case.
yeah,
Mm,
I agree.
mm.
Are men versus women the new East Coast versus West Coast BTSN Topical Tuesday? Let me drop a quick story in here just so we can kind of keep the conversation moving. There was a story that was out just recently, and let me play this off for you guys real fast. So apparently, Kevin Durant shouts out Diamond Miller from the Terrapins, the University of Maryland's women's basketball team. Now, Kevin Durant tweeted, "Hey Diamond Miller, you a killer for that dirt fade at the buzzer. Good win, Terps." And I watched this live on ESPN, and I'm gonna tell you where the cringy part came in for me. But this was Diamond Miller's reply. She said, "That is really, really cool." She said, "Wow, that is something I have to process later. The fact that he's in the NBA and that he supports women basketball is really huge. We're just going to keep growing the game, and people need to watch us because we all can ball and we all are talented." Now, she could have just stopped there, but then she continued by saying, "Just because we're women doesn't mean we're less than any man." I just felt like that last sentence right there kind of like almost diminished everything she said before that. I mean, because at the end of the day, I'm gonna be on my time. I'm gonna boast up what we did and everything that we done. We're going to put that on stage. I think when you said that, when she said just because we're women doesn't mean we're less than a man. Hmm, that kind of did something to me. What you guys think?
I mean, I could see that how it was like it was already the energy was already based on togetherness, and at the end, it kind of made like a she kind of made it like a me versus you thing. Um, I guess you could say she didn't even have to say that. Like I'm looking at both sides of the coin. On one side of the coin, like she didn't have to say that because the whole togetherness thing was already understood through the acknowledgement through KD and whatnot, and her like thinking it was cool and whatnot. And on the other hand, on her side of the coin, like me have played basketball. Like I've heard and seen dudes kind of like disrespect like the WNBA or girls college basketball. Like yo, this isn't fun. Like yo, there's no dunking. And I'm like, yeah, that's true that the whole dunking aspect kind of takes the excitement, so you don't really care for girls basketball. But at the same time, some of our most entertaining NBA players don't even dunk the ball. Damian Lillard, Chris Paul, Steph Curry, what's his name? Freaking, what's that dude? Freaking, damn, I know he plays for the Dallas Mavericks. But you
Yeah.
got Luca, yeah, Luca Doncic. We got even some of our most exciting NBA players don't even dunk the ball like that, but yet they're must see TV. You know what I mean? They're selling out arenas. So as far as defending women on that, like I can see where she was coming from, where she's just used to the whole defense thing on that because I mean I've seen it personally of men like for no reason kind of scoffing at women basketball just because there aren't as many dunks, which doesn't make sense to me because arguably some of our most entertaining NBA players they're not even known for dunking anyways. You know what I mean? Steph is known for just shooting threes all the damn time. So and he's selling out arenas. Chris Paul, he sells out arenas. They don't dunk the ball at all. So from her side of the coin, I can see why she added that little comment at the end.
Yeah, that just as good as is what got me. Because if I come into a workplace and say I'm here just to be just as good as my white counterpart, what does that say about me? That's the ceiling. I just want to be just as good as me. You know what I mean? I want to be as good as my potential allows me to be. And again, so by her saying, just as good as me, and the comment was great. I feel like until the last point. Not to say it wasn't great. It was her point of view. I'm just saying I feel like that last part right there kind of diminish when you say just as good as, because now you're putting men as a standard as opposed to you're excellent as a woman. You're excellent as a woman, and if you continue to be excellent as a woman, then your game can surpass the men's game. You know what I'm saying? And hypothetically or potentially. You know what I mean? Just by focusing on being great in yourself. So I do want to try to get some of the ladies' point of view, and I know we got Johnny in here. You have anything to say? Well, first, I want to just make sure there's room for you to speak.
Only thing I would probably say about that is I think probably because she's constantly being compared to um, men basketball players that's why she said something like that. But you should always try to strive to be like your best self and and not compare yourself to anybody. I agree with that. But it could be because she's being compared that you feel so defensive to like defend yourself like um well I can be as good as this person, but you don't need to say that. It's like a weak moment, a weak thing to say, but out of like being like beaten down with all these like judgments and frustration with people not watching. So,
Mm.
but I'm not big on, I'm probably not the best person to um, give my take on that because I mean, I am a woman, but I'm not that big on basketball. I don't know that much.
What aspect would you say you see in life where you notice the biggest like where you see like there's that energy of men versus women? Like where do you in what category do you notice it the most?
I think, and it's a lot of guys in here, so it's kind of like Um, I I think it's kind of like in almost everything because
Right.
um, there's just like this huge, um, it's like a huge amount of women that are becoming successful right now. They're becoming millionaires, and more doors are being opened for women than ever before. So, and it's leading to like a battle of egos. Well, like who is more important? I'm just as important as you are because I'm doing all of this, and I'm high value too. And I think it's kind of crazy. And a lot of egos need to be checked because um, as a woman, you don't need to flex on your man. I think it's kind of crazy that I see a lot of women doing that, but I kind of understand and see why it's happening because they're just in a position where they kind of don't need your money. So it's like, well, it leads to like this crazy part of your brain like why well, if I don't need him for his money, like but it's kind of ridiculous because it kind of like it's like okay, you don't need him for his money, but he's not just there for money. You shouldn't just want a man for that. And it's kind of like showing light on who's like I feel like just in it for money,
Yeah,
only wants a man for money. They don't really. It's kind of eye opening because it's like okay, now that you're making your own, it kind of shows how much you actually value a man.
yeah, yeah. And also, like to piggyback off that, like say like a group of guys or just a singular guy that may think it's embarrassing. Like say they're dating a girl, and that girl makes more money than them. Like I can see how. Well, I don't agree with it, but there's probably guys that may feel like they don't want a woman to make more money than them, so they can feel some sense of having more control in the relationship. For people who are controlling like that, there's that side, and then the other side, like me, like I don't understand. Like say you are in a relationship and you're dating a girl that makes more money than you, like the way I see it, like, yo, that's something you should be. That's something you could brag about or be happy about. Like, that's a good catch. Like you have a girl who has her own passion, that has her own goals, that went and got hers. You know what I mean? Like, that's something you could prop your girl up and brag about, that you got that type of person to
And could
that's making money like that.
your value to her, could your value so if a man was to have a woman who made more money to him could his value be more than just monetary? Could his value be leveled in encouragement or being there for you or sweat equity or watching the kids or holding it down, similar to what female
Yeah.
a lady would say?
For me, absolutely, because like I'll tell people like in the comments, like when they say, oh, say like I'll hear like, oh, a man's got to provide, but like a lot of people just automatically think provide for financially. There's more than one way to provide for a person. You could provide financially, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, through support. Like there's more than one way to provide for a person. and
Absolutely.
and so for like a woman who's making a lot of money, so there's this one, I had a conversation with this one girl. She's a software engineer. She's making like she I was talking to her, and she makes like close to 200K. And she told me how her dating experiences, like a couple dudes felt insecure that she was making that much money. I was like, damn. Like I literally legit told her, I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Like you meet a girl that has a good job, she's got a passion, that's making that much money. That should have been like that should have made them want you even more, not feel insecure about themselves. So there's definitely something, I think, that to feel a little insecure or to feel bad about a girl making more than you, that's one, an ego thing, and possibly wanting to have more control in the relationship. Like that's like a control obsessive thing from a man to feel bad if a girl makes more money than you, because there's more than one way to provide for a woman. Fin- Providing financially is not the only way to hold your weight in a relationship and to provide for someone.
Right. And I think men are kind of struggling with how to be there for a woman that is, so like a busy person, or she has like businesses and she's making that kind of money, 200K or more. It's like it could be intimidating, like what can I do for you type of thing, like, or how can I be there for you. It really just starting there, I think guys would go far because women love to talk. So I mean, just asking, how can I be there for you? I want to be there for you. You seem like you got it all together though.
Yeah,
Like how can I fit?
yeah. It could be probably like not having experience with that, like, or like lacking the ability to adapt. You know, as people, there's definitely plenty of people who lack the ability of adapting when it comes to things that deals with emotion.
Are we still holding true to traditional gender norms, or the gender norms changing, or are they moving? Are they fluid? Gender norms, like, what we traditionally feel a woman should do or what we traditionally feel a man should do, are those gender norms changing?
In theory, it seems like, but when each of those changes come about, language around those things has to progress too, right? So, for example, you out with your woman, she makes more, you at home with your woman, she makes more money than you. Which means she's able to live a different lifestyle than you. So now you live on two different planets in the same house, right? So she wants to go to dinner somewhere nice because she wants to celebrate a major accomplishment. You want to facilitate that. Okay, cool. But it's two different budgets, two different worlds. You get there and you look at the prices and you realize this your mind state in your world is this is not how much food should cost. This does not make sense. It doesn't. The value for me in paying $500 for a meal, and as opposed to like that 500 for a bill, I may not be willing to do that, right? Well, she's like, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that, right? She told you that before you got there. Don't worry about it. But the men, we still don't have a lot of us. We not comfortable with any language that allows you to go, I don't have that, or I can't afford that, or what do we do, or to make a plan to make you feel better. Even if you down to do it, it's like, how do you even say it? So I don't know what the answer is. Somebody should bring up Joy for sure, because she definitely schooled me on this topic. But I gotta say, I think the people are trying to change their mind around gender norms and be able to be better with, not everybody, but those of us who are, be better with, the male making less in a relationship or having less, he who makes the goal makes the rules type power. But even if you want to do that, do you even know how to say you want to do that? Like the language around that you now feel comfortable with, that you don't feel like a bitch.
Mm.
Men versus women on the East Coast versus West Coast, BTSN Topical Tuesday. But Bad Drew just dropped the gym. Anybody want to reply?
I think there's too much ego, too much pride, and for whatever reason, having that hang over your head to say, "Oh, dang, actually, I don't have it like that." Like to have that feeling of maybe they're one up on you, especially financially
Or what if
speaking.
she could find somebody better?
Yeah, yeah. That you explain that perfectly. That's probably the bigger. That's probably the more eye opening one of, well, dang, I don't have it like that. I don't have her money, or I don't have this amount of money. she could just drop me and just go with another guy who's got more money than me. Like there's definitely that thought, or that eye-opening thought, or trauma that a guy may
Yeah,
feel.
which is why you gotta just be like focused on like having more of a solid relationship with each other,
Yeah. Oh,
and not so
what you
focused on who's spending what, how much is being spent. Because I think like when your relationship becomes about how much I spent on this and how much you spent on that, that's like it just gets to a very problematic space, and
Yeah.
it's over like not things that are really important.
Yeah. What
Like,
what you said, that hit the
And who
nail
wants
on.
to and who wants to keep a running tab anyway?
Yeah. But
Yeah, when you start to keep a running tab, now you, by default, that dynamic creates a space where we're now competition as opposed to teammates, right?
mm-hmm,
If I'm keeping a tab between who did what when and how that benefited the relationship, we're not thinking about then how we're both contributing to the relationship. We're trying to outdo each other in a way that is not a healthy type of competition you want to have inside of a partnership, right? So, like, I think even in this, there's an opportunity here when we're having this conversation not only to think about how to check the ego, but also how to think about how to expand the identity. Because if I'm saying, oh, I can't afford to do this thing for you, and that makes me feel like threatened in the relationship, then what I'm saying is what I think is my only contribution or value here is what I can pay for. And I'm not expanding my sense of value for what I add to this relationship to include other elements of who I am, so that even if I don't have the money piece in order for whatever the reasons are, I don't feel like I'm just disposable, right? So it's like, how can I begin to think of myself as valuable in other ways so that I can move in a partnership in a way that doesn't have to operate under some weird power dynamic that is related to capitalism,
yeah,
right?
right. And like it also that what it base what you said and what Johnny said, what that bases off of is also, you really have to pay attention of a man and a woman who's in a relationship. Like if you feel kind of insecure or bad about the person making more money, just think of how did that relationship begin in the first place. If your relationship begun, or you guys got each other's attention based off of money, then, like, if that right there tells you, you guys set your foundation on who provides for who financially. And so, because if that's how the foundation of your relationship started, of, oh look, I got this girl's attention because I was flashing this or flashing money, that's like what you're holding the foundation of your relationship on. But if the man and woman started out the relationship based on truly getting to know each other's character, and not having a gender role based off of financial things, then you can get to know each other more and go through different degrees in the relationship, as long as that's not how the relationship started. Because whatever parameters of how your relationship started, that's basically going to be the nature and the foundation of your relationship going through everything. And a lot.
I think I want to challenge that a little bit, because I think that what you're speaking to is initial attraction. And there's always going to be something that is the initial point of attraction to another person. So whether that's their financial status, their looks, whatever, how they show up in a room and you're really attracted to how they're able to sort of command a space, like whatever it is, there's always going to be an initial point of attraction. So I'm going to push back against this idea that if you're attracted to the money initially, you can't grow and expand beyond that, right? So I think over time, I agree with you that it's not a sustainable way to be in a partnership, right? That if that's the key or maybe even only metric you're using to measure the standard or the health of your relationship, then I think that it's not sustainable, certainly, because we understand how that can fluctuate, that being somebody's financial status. But I do think that it's okay if you're in a place where you're like, this is what I'm looking for, and you find that in somebody, and that's your initial point of attraction. I don't think that that's necessarily a sign that the relationship will be doomed if financial struggles, arise at some point later down the line.
Yeah, you make a good point with that. That's true.
So I have the same question again. So now, and I'm gonna ask, and it could be in theory to answer or whatever. But so let's say you're not coming from a place. Well, first of all, is it even possible to not be coming from a place of insecurity when, well, say for example, it's the bill that we're talking about, where you're figuring out how to dress it. But what about if it's just like, I'm new into this idea, I'm new into this space, I don't have any problem with you paying, but how do I say what it seems like each time? I think it was here what you revealed was saying, which is like, what's the language around that? Like that is not giving off. Haha, you got it. Like I don't want to be like, you got it, get it. And also is, saying like, also I really don't mind you paying. Like I don't, and it is due to. I don't know if you have to say what it's due to, but what's the language around that on a date? And I don't mean deep into a relationship. I mean starting out.
Starting out, I'm probably old fashioned, but I think it's all on the guy. You cannot expect me to go half with you, and no, and
But how could he say it? Like, how did a guy say that to you without it sounding like some bum move? What's acceptable to say?
that's a hard one. Like,
Yeah.
you mean like first date, or what are you talking? Like, you mean first date, or like we've been talking for like a week or two, and now, you want to go half, or
Not go
just like
half on like a inexpensive. Like let's say the scenario is you have some places you like to go. You like a good steakhouse, right? For me, a good steakhouse, if I'm the guy in the scenario, is Sizzler. Like, oh, because I know that's going to be, we know what that bill is going to be. For you, a good house steakhouse is, Morton's or Ruth Chris or something. And I, how do I make it clear that if that's the type of dates you want to go on, and you are that far ahead of me financially, I would have to say that's going to be slim to none on my end, or far and in between. It's better on my end. But if you want to go there and you want to pay, like I'm cool with it. Like, how do you say that without it come across like either taking advantage or insecure about something? Just what's
I
the right
think
language?
if you don't want to look insecure, or like you don't have enough money to be dealing with her, you could offer, for her to come to your house, and you can make some steak, get like a really good recipe online, and make a really, really, really good meal.
Honestly, I think the beef doesn't even come from you being honest and forthright with what you have or what you're available to provide. I think the beef comes from you pretending to be something that you're not to approach me. Then when we get into the space, if the vibe isn't off, now it's, oh, we're going Dutch.
I don't. I think to answer the question of like what can a man say, I think it's perfectly acceptable, especially in a newer situation, to just sort of speak quite candidly about like your financial values in a way that is appropriate for the stage of the relationship, right? So that says, we're getting to know each other. I don't think that either one of us needs to be making huge financial investments in something that we're not sure about yet. How do you feel about going Dutch on a date? That's first, right? Because now I'm laying out, here's where I am with this. I don't want either one of us to be making huge investments in something that we have questions about, we're not even clear about. So in the beginning, you're setting the tone for here's how I want to approach this openly, and so that we both feel like we're making what feels appropriate and fair. Again, the investment in the relationship, and then as the relationship progresses, if the situation is, well, I believe, because again, we're still talking about financial values, right, in the context of our relationships. So if the situation is, well, I hold the belief that because you make more, you ought to carry more of the financial load. It still becomes a conversation that you're having about what do you think, what do you feel, what do you believe, and how do you see this working, or do you see it working at all, right? Because remembering that Attraction doesn't always mean compatibility. So if we're starting off early in the dating period and we're saying we don't want to make this investment unless we agree that this is something we want to invest in, then I think that's fair. And then as you progress, you still continue to have conversations about the financial values. And if she's like, yo, at this point, you either in or you not, and you see me as someone who's valuable and then therefore worthy of investing in these ways. And so if I'm not with this whole going Dutch forever thing, then I have a choice to make about how or if we progress in the relationship. But again, I think it keeps coming back to me in my mind to a person's financial values versus their financial status. Because even when you all are talking about feeling insecure, which to be fair and to be clear, I don't think feeling insecure is a bad thing. I mean, if you have an expectation of yourself and you're falling short of that and you're feeling some type of way about it, I think that's to be expected. I think the part is when you act from that place and you begin to say things or just do wild shit because you're like feeling insecure and you don't have it in check. Right. So this now we're talking about a conversation of like self-awareness. Okay, this is my insecurity bubbling up, all these things, having the feeling, but not necessarily having to act on it, especially not in ways that are going to project it onto somebody else and make it their responsibility to coddle you or tiptoe around it. Right. And so I think it's the separation again between my financial values and my financial status. And how do I communicate both of those things in a way that allows us each to make a conscious choice about how or if we show up in this relationship? Like that's, I think, if we keep partnership at the focus, we stop playing these weird games that are really about tiptoeing around the status quo. That is the gender norms we're saying we want to break, but still somehow perpetuating and upholding.
So is the
Right.
problem that we're not? So is the problem that we're not that we're guarded, or just that we're not honest, honest, open and honest about who we are, and who we want to be in a relationship? Are we guarded or just not honest?
I think both, right? I think being
Both.
dishonest is a way to guard yourself, right? Like you kind of build a story about around who you are so that they can't really get to the actual true core of that because it's a safety mechanism of a protection or defense mechanism against being hurt or being embarrassed or being shamed or whatever you think may come if you tell the truth. So I think it's both and they are acting in relationship to one another.
Do you think we lie just based on what we thought the other person's expectations may be? Because sometimes guys are just going to just lie because oh this girl she must like the big steak joint so let me just I'm a big baller all I do is buy steak because so you think we lie based on expectations?
There's a lot of reasons why people lie, right? Like
Or
ultimately I think
judging. I'm sorry.
yeah. Go ahead.
I was gonna say judging a book by its cover, because sometimes just because a girl likes nice and fancy things, you could jump to the assumption that she's superficial or she's only into stuff like that when she probably likes reading or writing or something like that. And you have to like kind of get to know people. Everybody that likes expensive things aren't obsessed with expensive things. It's just like a reward for your hard work. But
And
it
it's
doesn't
okay to be
like
the standard though. You can set a standard for yourself. Like I provide nice things for myself because those are the things that I like. So if you're attracted to the fact that I'm providing nice things for myself, that's something that you have to deal with within yourself. Like if you can't provide those nice things for yourself or me or both, it's nothing I can do about that. So you trying to play this game that's kind of on you. You put yourself in a space to be insecure because you're not supposed to be in this space. You shouldn't be looking for a woman that is looking for somebody to provide those things for her. Why are
Yeah,
you in this arena if that's not something that you're looking to do?
yeah, you gotta like both sides. You gotta look at the person. There's nothing wrong with wanting and having nice things. Like the adult thing, you have to assess how much that person values those things. That's where you find. There's nothing, like I said, there's nothing wrong with a woman or man wanting and having nice things. Where you draw that line is you have to see, okay, what's the value? What does this mean to this person? What does it mean to that person? If if a person wants to have nice things, and like Johnny was like, oh, it's to reward themselves from the hard work. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. As a man or as a woman, as an adult, you have to have that emotional maturity to understand, they like to treat themselves. There's nothing wrong with that. If you can't handle, they're solely basing it off of them treating themselves, not how they think of you as a person. Then you need to be able to draw that disconnect so you don't you don't get the wrong message. Some people, what's the word? They misconceive things based off of their reality. You know what I mean? They misread things where they could have just easily communicated with that person to easily understand what it is that they were going for, what the value in that material thing is.
I'm not even really sure what the core of that feeling is. I just was recently in a relationship where he would like check my receipts to see who is purchasing the items that I was coming home with. And this was like unbeknownst to me. Like he would, I guess, be riddled with guilt in the situation because I'm not doing anything that I'm not supposed to be doing as far as the relationship is concerned. Because in my opinion, why be in the relationship if you don't want to be in the relationship?
Yeah, I'm be honest with you. That I don't know where that comes from either. I've never been that type of person. I don't. For him to want to do that, I don't know what place that was coming from for him to have felt that way and to do that. I don't even know what that is, what that was about.
Well, it
He wouldn't be
sounds
the
to
only one.
me like the thing that you guys said earlier about this thing of if I can't do it, someone else will, right? And it sounds like that behavior is a manifestation of that. Like, oh, I perceive that I can't do it at the level that she requires or asks of me, and so is there someone else who is? And so I'm checking receipts to see whose last four digits of their card is on this joint because in my mind it's likely the person who can do it because I can't. Right? Like in my mind, that's a manifestation of that very thought that you all expressed earlier, just showing up behaviorally.
Yeah,
And as a woman, should you feel like they don't want you to have nice things? Like you're not willing to accept that you can't provide those things and you are forming a disdain for anyone that can provide nice things.
I
So
think
even if you're not doing anything illicit, even if you're not choosing to step out in the relationship and someone is just buying you gifts, it's nothing romantic at all. You're not cheating in any capacity.
I think people get consumed and brainwashed off of a lot of toxic behavior that they witness on social media. They let it get to them and then they apply it to their life.
Mhm.
If you're talking about accepting gifts from someone that you're in a platonic relationship with,
No, I'm not.
and then
I'm talking about that.
no, what was mentioned just now, she asked the question of like, what do you do when the man that you're with can't or won't step up and do the things financially, but there's someone else who is? That was am I mistaking the question or
No,
misunderstanding
no,
what the
no.
question
You're
was?
not. That
No,
that is the
you're not.
question.
You're not.
Yeah, so I was just um for me, I think now this is kind of going to the idea of like what's the agreement you have in your relationship, right? Because again, this goes to a conversation of in my mind accepting gifts from somebody that I know I'm not having any kind of intimacy with, whether it's emotional or otherwise. um and that's okay for me, but then you are saying, my partner's saying, that's not okay for me, then that's a conversation about what's the agreement for how we engage inside of this relationship. But I don't think it's any I certainly don't think it's the woman's responsibility to try to take on the feelings, right, that this
Right.
person has that's causing them to check your receipts and do all that. I don't think it's your responsibility, but I do think if you're choosing to remain in the relationship, there is at least an opportunity to have a conversation about it, especially if it's stemming from we're having misaligned ideas about what's acceptable and what's not in this relationship. I think that's anytime you see that come up, however it bubbles up, that warrants a conversation every time. Otherwise, are we even actively engaged in this relationship, or are we just saying we're doing something just to say we're doing something?
Right. I agree with that well, I was the flight, so I chose to end the relationship. Like this is not something that I can deal with, but I wanted to bring it up as a question because I feel like I didn't come out of the situation feeling like this man is going to adjust that behavior. So it is going to continue. And I'm wondering, is it so common that you would feel comfortable
I
not being
think
okay with your woman receiving gifts, whether you felt like that was your style of affection or not?
I think it for the person that you were talking about that had a problem with it. I mean, obviously he handled it wrong. I mean, if you got a problem with that, or you feel suspicious about something, it would have been cool if he had the emotional maturity to to literally come to you and talk about that, not be intrusive and just step over your boundaries, and you know what I mean, to be all up in your face like that, so that I think that showed not wanting to communicate. You know what I mean? Not having that emotional maturity to if he felt some type of way about that, he should have came to you and simply asked about that, not stepped over your boundaries trying to figure shit out.
I
Yeah.
personally, I think you have to have a conversation like that with your partner if you're gonna if it's okay to accept gifts from another man. Personally, I have not. I don't think there's too many guys that would be okay with that. Um, or and vice versa. If it was a woman and your man is getting gifts from another woman, there's no sexual relationship. She's just giving him gifts. I don't. I mean, I don't think I would be okay with that.
I feel
And
like I'm
it's
an avid communicator though. So if I can absolutely put myself in that situation, and it doesn't ever I can't ever honestly come from a place of trust. So there's no way that I'm ever rifling through another person's anything ever.
yeah, that
Like,
I don't condone it. I think that's crazy that he was checking
but
your receipts.
I highly
But
doubt that I'm the first person though. So I feel like it is a behavior that he is comfortable doing, and I don't feel like he's the only person. Like I there's it's such a commonality now, even with trifling through people's cell phones. Like I'm not picking up anybody's device unless I'm looking for something specific. And if you are already looking for something, I feel like there's mistrust there. You don't trust the individual. There was already a conversation that was missed if you have to go into
I,
anything.
I agree
I
with that.
looked. I looked one
You should
time, but
definitely
God
have a
told me
conversation.
to.
Hold on,
Not
but
with
Drew,
my
hold on,
wife,
but Drew,
but
you said you look one time because God told you to explain.
and I'm gonna leave it there. No, go ahead, Johnny. But I was
Wait,
No,
I
I
was
hold
think
on.
I think
I
you
was
should.
directed by
No,
the Lord.
you should have it.
Mhm.
You should definitely have a conversation about that if you feel any type of uncomfortable anything. You should talk first before you go through their phone, before you start going through their stuff. That's so like
The
I don't.
conversation was absolutely missed. You could have easily said like, "Oh, you got some nice stuff going on." Like what's the occasion? Anyway, you open up the conversation that you are having some type of uncomfortable feeling, however you decide to open up the conversation. But there has to be a conversation there. And why is that so
Right.
frightening for people to have? Like, why is that initial conversation to implement a boundary so uncomfortable?
Some guys think that you won't tell the truth. They think that you're gonna lie, so they have to like try to sneak and find something on their own because you're not gonna. If they ask you just straight up, you're not gonna tell the truth.
Yeah, it's a lot of things on social media and just learned behavior
But that means you've already
to where,
accepted the lie, though.
yeah, that's what
So
I'm
that's
saying.
not
Like
on me.
it,
You've
it's a lot.
already accepted the fact that you're with somebody that you feel is doing something out of malicious intent.
Yeah,
It may not even be that though. It sometimes you like. Well, yeah, okay, that, but in a different scope. Like I may have asked you the wrong question. This is dealing with women. Let's be real now. If I ask you the right question in the wrong way, I may not get the answer that's in your phone. But that's the answer that's the question I was trying to ask. But I didn't ask it in a way that got the reveal. So sometime, not saying that I would do it, I don't do it except for the time where God told me.
Hey,
But
quick question. I don't mean to interrupt. Quick question.
uh
After God told you to check the phone, and after you checked the phone, did you thank him after that for
I
finding
was
what
every
you wanted to
time.
find, or what?
Thank
Yes, I
you. That
did.
was a great
Yes,
question.
I'm still thinking,
Oh
brother.
gosh. Oh dang. Okay.
And
Thank the
so,
Lord.
and you know what? I'm sure there's some lady out there who was glad she tapped my phone or did whatever she did, and that worked well for her at that time. So I can't, I don't want to act like people are checking for nothing. It's some bad habits that happen a lot, and sometimes negative stuff is like you think you should do it because the outcome of it sometime is what you were looking for. And when you end up catching her or the person, because it's not just women, I'm sure women go through this with men, it's always an explanation after you clearly asked for this information. So it
So
might be a
if you
necessary
wouldn't have
evil.
found if you wouldn't have found what God led you to, if you wouldn't have seen anything that was substantial, would you have
Impossible.
continued in whatever you were doing?
Thank you for that
Impossible.
answer. I think it was answered already.
Impossible.
There is always something that needs an explanation when you go on your woman's phone. It needs background.
Do
Well,
you think do
it
you,
needs a date check.
do you think that's only for looking through a women's phone, or you think that's the same for looking through a man's phone also?
You're gonna
As a
always
part of
find
the
what you're
male
looking for.
congregation,
No. You're gonna always find what you're looking for. So if
You're
you're
you're gonna
always
looking
always
gonna
find
for
it.
some
find it.
dirt, yeah, if you're looking for some dirt, anything that could remotely be that, you're gonna fill in the blanks to make it that. So to the point that was made earlier, if you're checking, there's already something there that's happening, whether it's in your mind or actual in real life. There's already something there that's happening that that is sort of prompting you to even go there and do the checking of the receipts or the phones or whatever else.
Or sometimes
One thing that
people
I
are
think
damaged from their previous relationship.
that's
They
what I'm
haven't
saying.
let that go.
Whether it's really happening or whether it's happening in your mind, it's happening, and that's what's prompting you to do the things you're doing if you're checking
Mhm.
phones and
Yeah.
etc. One
And that
thing I
leads me
will
to
say
believe you don't
about
want to. Oh,
the one thing that I wanted to just say about the question around like why can't people just talk about it, right? Like if you're feeling some type of way, why can't you just talk about it? I want to acknowledge the vulnerability that comes with that. The vulnerability that comes with saying, "Hey, I'm having some insecure feelings around whether or not you're actually happy or fulfilled in this relationship, and it's leading me to believe that you may be doing XYZ things with other people." Right? That's a very vulnerable conversation to have. So the step that has to come before that, before we ask the question of why don't you just say it, we have to ask the question of are we creating a safe enough space inside of this relationship for it to be said? Right? Because we can't
and I
just
have a
ask for the
question there.
vulnerability without creating the soft place to land.
From a foundational perspective, do you feel like our community hasn't got the opportunity to properly date? I don't. I feel like all of the instances that I hear with just even my girlfriends dating and then even my dating experience, I never really had a great time. Everything was always so intense and so serious, or a push for seriousness, that it's not really fun for us culturally. We have all these little side things like, oh, we're just talking, or whatever happens between us, that everything within the confines of a relationship happens except a relationship. We're
I,
accounting those as actual relationships that we've had, and they haven't been relationships. They've been all these other little situations that happen that are shaping the culture, and I don't feel like those should count as actual relationship experiences.
I think a lot of people are failing to want to truly do the true friends first type of thing. Because a lot of great relationships, they started out as friends first. There's definitely I want to say worry, especially from the guy's standpoint of being friend zoned or whatnot.
Yeah, because
but
no guy really wants to be friend zoned.
yeah, no guy, definitely no guy wants to be friend zoned. At the same time, though, the maturity thing about that is a great relationship with great foundation. I mean, it's best that you do start off as friends, anyways, so you can
Why is the
true.
expectation for a woman to lay with you before she can even call you a friend so high?
Uh, okay, go ahead.
That's cool.
That's a good question. Hold on. That's a good question. Repeat that one. Hold on. Drop that one more time, please.
Why is the expectation for a woman to lay down with you so high that you won't even be her friend first?
Because you want to know stuff. You want to know stuff.
Why can't I know anything about you before I lay down with you?
And that's because for me as a male, I'm not speaking for everybody, but I feel like this. As a man, the value of me having sex with you in my world, low. It's just a thing. The value of me sharing who I am, where I come from, fears, deeper shit, way more valuable. And I don't want you to leave with that information. I want to be in something with you serious if you have that information. So when you come to the relationship with me and you're trying to build with me some way and get to know me on a deeper level, then we're talking about sex now.
When
Because
are
for
you
you,
more
deeper level
vulnerable than when
is
you're
sex.
nutting? Like, when are you more vulnerable in your life than when you're nutting?
That's a funny
That's when I'm
question.
no. When I'm nutting, I'm vulnerable, but the moment after, I'm unapproachable. So I'm just saying, for you, the value is your vagina, and then and it'll be like you'll meet a girl, not you, but I'm saying you'll meet a woman, and she'll be like, I don't want to sleep with you, but I want to tell you all of my life and where I've been and what my like, dude, you going deeper than vagina for me. So the exchange, we value in two different ends of the spectrum in two different ways. Like, I don't care if we have sex and you leave, but if you think you're gonna sit here with me and I'm about to confessional you and we not going toward a relationship, then you
Your
got what I'm
level of
attracted
trust
to
is so
confused.
skewed. The level of trust is so skewed. Like, I just think, I think what you're saying is, respectfully, I think it's bullshit. Because if you were really scared, you should be scared when you're most vulnerable. I don't care about what you're saying the moment after you're unapproachable. You're still in a vulnerable state.
Well,
So
scared is you
if I'm really
implying,
crazy,
but scared is that you're implying that he's scared. You never use the word.
okay, well, I'm associating fear with vulnerability. So if you are saying, what is the issue with you sharing information about who you are and the things that I am just asking to get a base level amount of information before I lay down with you, why are those things so guarded, but your body isn't?
I didn't say base level.
He
That's
didn't
what
say
I'm saying.
he didn't say base level either. So, what, for example, like once you know my name and what kind of music I like, and you probably know what kind of car I drive and what I do for a living, that's all. I'm willing to say he's willing to give that information. That's like shit we give off top anyway. You can look at my LinkedIn page and all that stuff. Info's up there. So I don't think it's base level, and I don't think he's afraid. When I'm saying it for some people, and I can't speak for him, but even for myself, the type of things I hold sacred, I just don't want to share that with anybody. Do I have a fear of you going to tell somebody? Well, I've told the story before, so it's not necessarily about that. But who are you in my life? Like who we haven't even got to a place where you are even important, and vice versa. I shouldn't be important to you right now, right? Now the sex thing, I don't. It's not that I don't agree. I just don't put it on a level that low, right? So that's his thing, but I understand it for sure. Because for to not to get vulgar, but I'm just saying how it is. Like for pussy, a lot of it's really not nothing to a lot of niggas, especially a nigga who's out here getting it, right? So you try to
Preach.
hold that back from me is kind of like what? I don't give a fuck about that. Like, and it makes me look at you crazy because I wasn't really pushing the pressure to get it, right? And because that's the one thing that's the now for us a lot of times that usually comes before the base information or comes with the base information, right? So for that thing, anybody really fighting for that? Like, what do you hold sacred? And then let's try to get to a point where we both
are expressing that before we do anything sometimes. But I feel like if we're having fun and we're adults, do what you feel you want to do. Don't hold back because of some rule or some whatever. It's the same thing in my information. If I
Church.
feel like you and me are vibing at a club or something, we're getting deep, then we just got deep. And that's what it was, because the vibe took us there. And at that point, you might have got some real shit out of me or some deep shit, right? But I won't hold back because I have a rule about who you are, right? And I hope you don't do the same thing for me if it was sex. Like, don't ever sit there and be wanting to fuck me and just don't. Now I'm married. Now I'm out the way, so that's another conversation. But
Hold on, hold on.
But see, my thing is, I feel like you're speaking from your
of
perspective
course,
only, and
of
you're
course,
not. But you're not the problem. You're
no,
not
I understand
where
that,
the
but
issue resides.
no,
So
I understand it. But I think
I
from, I'm
understand,
sorry.
and what your approach to the situation, that's wonderful. But I'm saying, on the grand scheme of things, if your goal is not to be my friend and your goal is not to fuck me, then what is it? What do you want? Like,
No,
what?
okay. Let me break that down, right? So, okay. Now, if I have to speak for other niggas, which I shouldn't be able
Good
to, I don't even
question.
know how I'm doing this, right? But but if I have to speak for some other cats, right? Let's talk about guys who you said, why do I have to give you the P first before we become friends, right? Now, for them, they're kind of, for guys who think that, they're kind of also showing you what the value of what they think of that, right? They're showing you like to be your friend is a very special thing. Sometimes it takes time, it takes conversation, it takes all these things. Pussy for some certain niggas is just like going to get fast food. Like, and I hate to make it sound like that,
It's
but
like a
that
handshake.
it's like a handshake. It's kind of like, all right, oh, you got some pussy. I'd love to have some. like, like that's
Okay, I don't think we're. I don't. I don't. I honestly don't think that we're in the forum for the example you're giving. Men are pursuing. Men are pursuing women at an accelerated pace, and it's not from a perspective of just getting some Chick-fil-A. They are
but
really
no, you
delving
are missing the
into.
point. Chick-fil-A line is the way it is because we like Chick-fil-A.
I hate
The line
Chick-fil-A,
is
by
the
the way.
line is
I'm more of a
forever long,
Popeyes guy.
right? But to my point, right? You misconstruing me saying it's like going to fast food, going to McDonald's or going to Chick-fil-A or something like that. Like, we don't care. The reason why it's over 1 billion served because we like that shit, right? But we also understand that that shit comes a dime a dozen, right? So yes, I may want it, but it comes from everybody, right? It's like when we found out that chicks were doing the 90-day rule, and niggas was like, "What? Why would y'all do that to yourselves?" Because niggas is going
It's
to get it throughout the whole 90 days and still wait for you and then get yours. And
so
then we kind of
if it's a dime a dozen, why pursue someone that's giving you the information that, hey, I want to get to know somebody before I have sex with them. I want to build a friendship. You're still pursuing that individual.
because it's the game.
Okay, so then it's not just fast food because you're not
It
going out.
is. Listen, you
You're
can't.
not
It's the
not
No, I
game.
think I think
You're
we're
not
having a
playing Wendy's.
conversation. I think the
I'm sorry.
conversation is. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying that you're not playing Wendy's up against another. You're not playing Wendy's up against Taco Bell. You're not playing them off each other. You want Taco Bell, you go sit in Taco Bell line and you wait to get Taco Bell. You want whatever other fast food, whatever scenario. Why are you pursuing women that are saying to you, like, hey, I would like to build a friendship? You don't break the boundaries. You never break it down. You continue to pursue as if this is something that we're building. And it's not that. It goes from talking to not really wanting to fuck that person anymore to being over.
Well, I think from those cats who look, if you are playing the game of, if let's put myself in that nigga space, whoever that nigga is, because that nigga's not me. But if I put myself in that guy's space of, I'm approaching it. If I'm approaching Parker and Parker like, look, let's be friends, let's whatever, and then you're saying that guy is still trying to fuck you.
Yes, that is the game. That is the game you were
So
talking about.
right, so
And
you
that
ask
is
me
what
why
we
do they
do
want to do that?
culturally. We don't have dating situations. We don't have situations where two people are dating, and if it works out, they go into a relationship.
We
We
do.
can't even acknowledge.
I'm an example, and I'm married.
I think Parker.
It's happening. Look, it's not. It may not be. Look, it may not be happening. First of all, I'm sorry, social class, whatever, or groups of people, and see the same thing. The complaints from women coming from all different kind of women. You all are different, and you all saying the same shit. So one thing we understand that across the board, and this is me saying this, so I'm not speaking for any men, especially on this panel, but the majority of men are trash. That's just what it is. And I can say that, right? But I also know there are people out here dating and finding their ones because I did it, and I have friends who've done it and are doing it, right? And it's like one thing we never want to do, fuck as a people, just as people anyway. We never want to see. Well, wait a minute. Is it me? Is it I that am the problem? Where am I going to date? Where do I hang out at? What kind of friends am I with? What kind of advice do I take? Am I dealing with my own shit? Do I operate in trauma when dating people? Do I know that I am? Have you dealt with all your shit as a youngin? Right? It's like a lot of times we want to poke and say everybody else trash, everybody else this. Why aren't people? They are though. People are, and I use myself as an example because if anybody know Nick, I know. I'm talking reform, fuckboy, all that shit. Completely turned, 100% loyal. I'm committed. My wife is the only woman I desire. Period. Right. So if anybody knows, I know, and I know it's being done because I know I know who I talked to and what it took me to get my shit in order, and what kind of friends I had around me, what kind of support system I had around me. So it's happening. Right, but men and women find themselves in spaces and don't know what's going on. And sometimes a nigga be like, "Well, shit, is it you?" And I'm not saying you as Parker. I'm just saying sometimes, a lot of times, it be us. Like, what kind of motherfuckers are you attracting? What kind?
I just feel like the percentages are extremely high
Because men are pieces of shit.
and I'm gonna use
like the numbers. Look, it's way more. Listen, repeat this. It's way more women on Earth than men. That's just period. Me and Badu used the same example years ago in our podcast when we talked about, and people hate using this example, but it's real life. We talked about if every man on earth had a woman and was loyal to that woman, the words I used at the time was, a lot of you bitches gonna die alone. Period. By the numbers. That's just a fact. And it ain't getting better. Men are going to prison more. Men are getting killed more. War, the separation of families, LGBTQ. It's getting less and less. And people are still being born. That means women is way more women out here than there was last year or 2 years ago or 5 years ago, right? So you don't want that. You want every nigga being loyal. That's what you don't want. So another thing is, what are we doing when y'all here dating? How were you in your last relationship? Where do the problems lie? Are you a good communicator? Do you express your feelings well? Have you dealt with your trauma? Do you know what love looks like? What a question Joy asked me before I got married. What does marriage look like to you? What is your idea? What is your idea of marriage? Right. So
You said they don't want you to be cheap.
no,
Go
I'm just
ahead.
saying. I'm saying, but if we did it on a number scale, it's first of all, it's impossible. So we don't do the number scale because motherfuckers hate hearing that. So what it is that we gotta really take the approach of what are we out here doing. I knew when I was out here in my 20s and 30s, the type of crowd first of all, I was high as fuck, doing all the bullshit with all the fucked up people. I can't even meet a bitch that's gonna be worth anything with the crowds I was in because I was with a gang of motherfuckers who wasn't worth shit. And we all fucked up and we all dealing with all kind of shit. We all grew up in the same trauma bonding, twisted ass, fuck your homeboy's baby mama and your girlfriend with your last nigga in twisted ass east side of Watts, right? I had to get out of that shit, become an adult, kick the drugs to the side, go through some shit, meet somebody later on in life, and then come correct later on, right? But it's like we sit here and be sitting, why are we single? Why is everybody? And then black people especially always, we do this thing where we say, like it's just us. Man, what? My white homegirls is going through it. They ain't got nothing going on. These niggas is foul out here. They are doing nothing but fucking up the world and being assholes and then being gay and amongst other shit. Like,
So it's funny that you say that. Well, it's not funny, but it's interesting that you say that because in the work environment that I'm in, I find that white women are always either married or engaged, and they seem like very simple. Like I work in entertainment, but every time I'm there with like the hair and makeup department or just different like white women in the costume department or in any other department on the set, they're always engaged and married, and they're in their 20s, and I'm always thinking to myself like, how do you work in this environment where we work the same kind of hours, we're around the same kind of people, the whole shebang?
But now now obviously we have our cultural differences, right? How we're taught to be in relationships, our parents being together, what does marriage look like? Do you have an example of marriage? So our cultures are different, and what we come up and seeing is different, right? But when you talk to them, same people, and get into their business, then we'll get to what do you really want? What do you really see? Yeah, she with him, but
And
what they
I
got going
have
on?
all those examples. So when I say that because I can place my parents are married. They've been married for 20
Same.
years.
Well, for 40 years, but same.
I've seen a great marriage relationship. I am, as an adult, seeing my parents' relationship continue to do leaps and bounds, and it is so inspiring to me. But I have never been in a relationship in my life where I felt like, oh, okay, cool, this is healthy.
So let me ask you: has it always been a guy? Are the guys every dude you've dated since you've been an adult? Is it always their fault?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, wait, hold on. Let me interject right there because see, that was the setup. And
Bobby,
secondly,
you stupid.
secondly, secondly, I gotta say, look, you got away with saying women don't want men to be loyal. They really don't want that.
No,
That's
that's not what.
joy, joy,
That's not what I was
joy,
saying.
joy. He not literally say?
Yeah, he said it, and I was waiting for the
So yeah, let
for
me
the
lob it over
Right.
to
rebuttal, but
you because I
nobody
know you were
came.
taken aback.
Nobody came through. No, the thing that was coming up for me that I really want
That's
to touch
funny.
back on is something you said, and I didn't even realize that was you. Hey, Terrence.
There you go.
One thing
He's let
that you
down
said
by
that
you.
I
That's what she means.
no. One of the things that I really want to touch back on that you said, which I really appreciate, is the effort that it took for you to change was not your own, right? That you also had community, you had supporters,
Yeah,
you
for
had people
sure.
that you looked to. I know that you and I had several
For sure.
conversations over many hours about, just what it was going to take for you to do the work that you needed to do to be the man you wanted to be,
For sure.
to have the relationship you wanted to have, right? And so I want to acknowledge that because I think in the same way that it took for you to be connected to community and resource and to have accountability inside of a larger system of friendships, mentors, etc., I think it's important to acknowledge that you got there to the fuckboy place in the same way inside of larger systems that are greater than you that were influencing and impacting you. So hence what you were saying about the homeboys I was hanging out with, the behaviors I was engaging in, the habits that I was perpetuating. So we have to understand if whenever we're questioning behavior, especially the behavior of an individual, we have to be looking at it inside of the context of the greater systems of which they're parts, whether that's your family system, your community system, larger societal systems, whatever that is. And so if we're asking the question, going back to the early part of the conversation of like, what makes a man okay with having sex with a woman that he doesn't even really know, even on the friend level yet? If we're going back to that question, I think it goes back to, I think, Badru, you're the one who said, well, we're talking about people who are being conditioned to have a very different and oftentimes conflicting set of values. So we're talking about purity culture that tells women that we ought to protect our virginity, right? Even just the language of like, somebody took my virginity.
Right.
So there's this idea, there's this very Puritan or like purity culture idea that for women, that is the thing that we ought to protect. And then for men, their feelings is the thing that they ought to protect and cherish and value and not share widely and freely. So I don't think that we can look at the individuals who are then inside of a relationship trying to work that out and say, you're just not making the choice because you don't care or you don't have the discipline. We have to understand that they're making that choice influenced by a larger society, which has taught them this is your valuable thing that you need to protect at all costs. And so they're each going into the relationship wanting the connection, but building the wall to protect the thing that they think is valuable, the valuable thing that only the person who's worthy should get. So I'm hearing Baju say, I'm only telling you these things about who I am if I know that you are something to me beyond Wendy's, happy whatever the meal, right? Like, and the same thing is true for the woman. I'm only willing to give you this part of me once you prove that you're a worthwhile friend or that you're going to be here, or all the things. So we're both protecting parts of ourselves that we've been taught is the valuable thing that we ought to protect in relationships. And then we come together and that conflicts because we have different sets of values based on how we've been conditioned according to our gender. That's why this shit is
100%.
stupid.
I've never been in a relationship outside of wanting to just have sex with a person. Like, okay, I guess I want to have sex with you now, so we have to be official, if you will.
Yeah, you
That's
start
what I'm
out on
saying
that
about how we
stalemate.
perpetuate. That's what I'm saying about how we perpetuate the status quo that we say we don't want.
Right.
It's like
That's
we start
how I was
participating
raised.
inside of these systems. Yeah, and same, right? Like same, and not necessarily directly. This is how you do it, but just from examples that you see, from narratives that are pushed, from media, from movies, from everything that we see that tells us who we ought to be and how we ought to show up if we want to be quote unquote chosen.
Not being
Right?
allowed
I
to
think
date,
women got to
not
be.
being allowed to date, not being allowed to have a boyfriend all throughout high school. Like, no, you're not allowed to do this because these are the things that happen within a relationship that you are considered a boyfriend or a girlfriend. These are the things that you're not allowed to do. So when I step into my adult life, what makes you think that I'm just dropping all of that immediately? Like,
All that
what?
shame, all that fear.
But see, that's
all that
also
anxiety.
part of what I was talking about, how you were raised, and I wasn't talking about you specifically, Parker, but a lot of what's all driving the car is that type of shit, right? Of all the things you couldn't do, I couldn't live my life, I couldn't be this, I couldn't be that, because our parents are operating in the space of this is how you parent. Like everybody's literally freestyling, but at the same time, parents are like, this is how you parent. I don't want her to date. I don't want her to do that. I don't want to do that. And then there's some things that happen for people who do that. Not all the same thing, but Parker may act out differently, right? Like you could have been the type to be like, well, shit. Once I go to college, I'm about to throw this pussy a party, because that happens, right?
It does happen.
So
and it happened to me.
That's what I'm saying. There's so many things, but so people are operating. So people, we a lot of us are. Me and Joy talk about this. We talked about this before, where people are operating in that, right? It's like you are. Look, it's like this. Here's a great example. So, when I was old enough to understand what somebody told me what a Scorpio was, then I started operating in the space of what I read. When naturally I'm not even like that. You understand what I'm saying? Like they told me, oh, y'all hold grudges and y'all freaky and y'all think, oh, I'm that? Oh, okay. You put the fucking costume on and now you're a Scorpio for the rest of your life. Right? And then you like, wait a minute, that's not me. I don't even do half of this shit. Or majority of this shit, whatever. But it's the same thing. We put on all these, as kids, we stack on all this shit. The world tells us how we're supposed to be, what we're supposed to like, what type of food to eat, what type of people to hang out with, what kind of God to believe in, what kind of all these things, and we dress ourselves up, and then we start peeling all that shit off once we become young adults. We get out here
But
in the
then
world.
it's not always the world. Sometimes it is ingrained in you. Like when you said sometimes you get to college, you want to throw yourself a party. I tried to do that shit and I got arrested making out with a guy in the backseat of a car. And
it's the mom.
Hold on. Your pussy. Hold on. Your pussy party got raided by the police? Is that what happened?
Immediately. And so that went in my brain like, you know what? This never would have happened to me if I wasn't living crazy. So that
not living crazy. And that's where I want to add my 2 cents here, because I feel like the narrative of men being this power and this, that, and the other skews the reality of what's going on, like the truth that we really all know. So, and I just got to say this. So, we all know pussy is the real power. Vagina is the real power. We can agree on that. The person who controls that controls a lot.
Amen.
Okay.
Amen.
Okay.
Amen.
So with that being said, right, and knowing that there's this curiosity and lure around a female body and vagina for men that we know is nature driven first. We it's a natural thing as well as it is a thing that we just consciously trying to go get. A lot of this is we wake up a certain way, and then that way leads us into pursuit for the day if we could get it. So, and I think why the problem that we're having in relationships, especially with mature people, is, and this is the best term I could come with for right now, but it's poor vagina management, because not who you're sharing it with. But if you know, I'm telling you, we starting out like this. We all have agreed. We starting out like uh, a guy and a woman sitting there wanting to be in a relationship. The woman's like, "Tell me your secrets," and the guy is like, "Give me your vagina." Stalemate, right? The woman should start. Why is there no place where women can say, "I'm gonna give you some vagina once, so you know what it is." Then
So
we
then
need to
that makes
decide.
it no, that
Like,
makes it
like,
transactional.
why
That
it gotta
makes
be?
it transactional. That makes it transactional. That makes it
No, that means
transactional.
an agreement is transactional. All agreements are transactional. We
Like,
need an
okay, like,
agreement.
okay, you want a secret after that? No, but
Yeah,
look,
yeah.
you.
And I opened up. You opened up. The strongest man keeps the peace. The most powerful person has the vagina. The onus is on the women, and the
Look,
men have to be under control of knowing that that one time they give you. We all love Trader Joe's. You get samples at Trader Joe's. You don't get really good food.
look, man. I'm gonna say something that's really, really, really shallow, but this is literally
Again,
the most elementary, yes, the elementary way to explain it. Right when it comes to that, if women knew what pussy felt like, we wouldn't be having most of these conversations in life. Like governments wouldn't be fighting if they
Oh
knew.
no, women
If
know what pussy
men
feel like. Oh
knew
no,
what
women know what
pussy
pussy feel
felt
like.
like, we wouldn't be having this conversation either.
If men would,
Most men
if we
and
what?
women know what pussy feel like.
You have no idea what it feels like.
You said men don't know what pussy feel like.
I done felt enough pussy to know what it feel like. We know what it feel like.
Yeah,
mentally. And I think he's saying bigger than the actual. It's a thing. It's just it will mess your head up.
they never felt it. There's no way you don't know. It's like men. You know how women always try. Women say, "Don't speak for women,"
What my
or "You
pussy
don't
is doing
understand
to
what
me
pregnancy
and what
feels
my
like, or
pussy
what it's
is
like to
doing
have
to
a
you
baby."
is two totally different things. And
You
we
said
gotta
what?
just
What you say first? I'm sorry
what
to hear
my
that.
pussy is doing, what my pussy is doing to me and what my pussy is doing to you are two totally different things.
Please
And it
explain.
has
Please explain. Let her explain now. Please unpack that. Please unpack that.
vaginas are quite the burden.
But we don't have to deal with that part,
Or do we?
But
or do we?
you
That
know
is
that
the
it
question.
exists and you treat it the same way.
You said what, Parker? I'm sorry.
You know that it exists and you treat it the same way. Like you know what we have to deal with having it, but that doesn't change your pursuit of it. Like how emotionally a woman is attached to this thing that she has I have no control over it. Like what? Like
We're counting on that.
like the saying says, I don't want this power.
You
Yeah,
may
but with great
you
power
do
comes great responsibility.
Could you
Responsibility
imagine if
is
Mary?
the
Could
I
you
hate this
imagine if
whole
Mary said
conversation right
no?
now. I hate it. I hate it.
Could you imagine in the beginning if Mary said no?
Joy says she hates this whole conversation. Joy, bring us to the light, please.
This
Wait.
conversation is crying. Got
Because
me crying over here.
why did how did we get here? How did we get here? But let me say one thing that
I
came
don't
up that
know, but it's
I have a
hilarious.
question. I have a question that I want to pose just based on this conversation that just came up for me for the very first time ever. I'm actually surprised. So here's the question. We're talking specifically, you men are mentioning like how powerful it is, sex, vagina, all the things,
No, we
right?
just. I was talking. I would say powerful. Well, Badu did. I was just talking about the
Some
feeling of feeling awesome. But
yes.
go ahead.
So yes, I think that obviously there's the physical sensation part of it, which
Mm-hmm.
I'm not familiar with but will not deny, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious to know specifically this piece about like it being so powerful and how it can change the dynamics of a relationship. Um, I'm curious to know if part of that, and this is now me going into a little bit of neuroscience, so just rock with the nerd in me,
Let's
Mm-hmm.
do it.
recognizing all of those um, sort of attachment neurotransmitters and hormones that are released during a sexual interaction with somebody. wondering if it is a more potent experience for men, specifically because they have fewer spaces and opportunities in their lives to experience those hormones and neurotransmitters because of the way that they are taught to guard their relationships and their emotions. So because they don't often get to feel connected and attached to people in that way because of the way they guard their emotions, when they do experience that just naturally, physiologically, because it just happens when you have sex with somebody, I'm wondering if that's what makes that experience a little bit more potent in that regard than it is for women who are a little bit more, I think, well practiced in having a sense of connection and attachment, because we tend to have intimate experiences outside of sexual intimacy, emotional intimacy, intellectual intimacy, social intimacy, right? So we are not as deprived or starved in the area of intimacy, so that when we experience the hormones related to it, it's not such a big hit for us. It's not like this huge injection, because we have a little bit of it buzzing in us all the time.
And
100%.
that made me think of, like, there's a lot of men, right, that if you ask them outside of sex, there is no intimacy in their life.
And that's what I'm saying. And so that's what makes the sexual experience that much more potent in terms of what we're saying about it having the capacity to shift the dynamics of a relationship, because that's an opening in a way that is rare, I think.
Yeah, because we know we know men and women that completely lose themselves over pussy and dick, right? And
for sure.
You know, we you know the narratives, right? Piece of shit nigga usually got the best dick.
Dickmatized, whatever
right?
that.
Dickmatized, right? And, you know, because they ain't got nothing to do but learn how to fuck and be great at sex. So that's what they do.
Let me find out. We just cracked the code on this whole shit. It's just a new trail of how we think about it. Because I think this is obviously not a new conversation, but I think this is a way to think about it so that when we start to explore these dynamics, we have just a different set of data points. Because right now it's just like you ain't shit, and we just mad. And that's
that's a good. That's a good question for you, Badru.
Well,
a good question. There's your question. There's your question to ask. Like,
I believe it.
How emotionally evolved are you in your life? Have you had an opportunity to have the true intimacy in your life before you go on a date, before you take your girl to dinner? Make sure you know how emotionally evolved she is, and hopefully the question is countered. Like,
Parker is hilarious.
I haven't ever been able to emotionally, get attached to anybody. I'm guarded, so I might not be ready to pay the 100% of this bill. I might only be emotionally available to pay 50%.
Wow.
First of all, I agree with what Joy was saying. I feel like for us, especially the more masculine lifestyle you live, like when I'm working or moving about, that's 100% dudes around. Like it's we just doing we just working. You see what I'm saying? So my time with the women in my life, whether it's romantic or friendships or whatever, that's your time to like not have armor on, because although we have long lasting strong friendships, it's because all of our boundaries are always in effect. So yeah, this is my boy, you know, any one of the guys on here with my boys, we can joke all we can, but there's a limit to how much we can joke and kind of let our hair down between each other, because we have to uphold a certain thing to make sure you don't accidentally step on a boundary that you don't want to have to follow that up with whatever.
But my question is,
you
why
get
are
with a
men
woman,
so comfortable temporarily doing that? Men are very comfortable
because we want to do it all the time.
No.
We want to have more opportunities. When you ever seen a dude, this is what I had to learn late in life. And when I mean late, I mean I learned it from Jim Jones and Chrissy on the first season of their show, right?
That's a healthy relationship to judge.
I'm just telling this one part. I watch a lot of dudes who have long-term relationships, who are street dudes, who talk like, yeah, you know what it is, we talk how we talk to each other, and they get to their girl and they like, but honey, baby, come here. I'm like, when did he talk like that? But it's not that he's breaking down and being weaker. It's like, it's the same as if you have a daughter or something. It's like, it's the space for you to get that off and get out of all the damn machismo. So Yeah, we value in sex when it get to that degree, but it's not going to get there for us until we've already started sharing this stuff that we were scared to share with other people. We not just you just hug so much better than everybody at sex that we just decided to be that level of intimate with you, or you just had a look. It's after a couple of shares and a couple of more shit. So it still goes back to my same point of like we sit in there getting to know each other, and the girl is give me a secret, and you're like, give me some pussy. Well, no. Well, you got to give me a secret. No, you got to give me some pussy first. First things first. No, first things first. It's like we are in a direct conflict on what's the first thing of value to let go. And for me, I'm not just telling you a secret for you to go tell
In the
somebody else that.
transaction? But why engage in the transaction if you're not wanting to do it regularly?
Because the easiest because regularly don't have anything to do with me and the one person I'm talking to. That goes back to the ratio. I'm
and
already
history.
on regularly. I'm trying to sort them bitches out through you and I communicating better and seeing what we gonna do. I'm
And,
already on regular. I'm fucking.
and
You're out
history,
here. You're out
history
here
tells us.
sparsing out vagina and sex in a way that is strategic. I'm having sex with. I'm following my vibes in that sense
And Project,
until
history tells
we
us to
build
keep going.
something. Yeah, you slowing up a flow to create something
Yeah,
like.
history tells me this works. Like that's like history tells me 8 or 9 times out of 10 this works. If you end up being the 10, then you move on. But history tells me this works. It's like I used to use the example of I used to use the example of why men lie, right? And when it comes to pussy, right? So I was talking to the homegirls, and they was like, "Why don't he just tell me he got a girlfriend?" I said, "Because if he did, would he would have got the pussy?" And she said, "No, but I still expect the honesty. I don't care what you expect. He betting on him. He's not betting on you, right? So it's like he has a better chance to get. Is it right? Hell no, it's not. But y'all both playing the game. Y'all both playing the game. So so it's the same thing when if I'm trying to get at you and try to pursue something that I don't think you're quick to let up on, but it's the game. I've been dealing with that shit since a little boy in school, right? It wasn't nothing just easy. Hey man, I like you. Let's have sex tonight. That shit rarely happened. Maybe later on in life, but that rarely happened. But as a
If
And
the
man,
yeah,
ratio is off, and men don't feel any social responsibility to not like just fuck through all the women, like what's the point of that? If you already know the ratio is off,
mm,
what's the point of fucking through all the women? Like,
what?
where's the whole great power? With great power comes great responsibility. Oh, women have the power. If
that's for
you know
comic
they're
books. Hello.
Hold on.
Not
Hold on.
hello.
We gotta take a pause for
And that was good.
hold on, guys. We gotta take a pause for station identification. That was really a good one too. This is like the dopest therapy session ever. Everyone is giving a good input on men versus women, the new East Coast versus West Coast BTSN Topical Tuesday. You guys have been awesome. Good conversation. Great conversation. We're gonna wrap it up in a few minutes, but everyone, you want to share your final thoughts? Let's do that.
Yeah, I wanted to say, going back to just a question that was coming up in my mind around this dialogue about it being transactional, right? When we're trading secrets for sex. I think obviously in that context, it can feel very transactional. But if we go back to what I was saying earlier about the way we've been socialized, right? That women have been socialized to protect their sexuality and men have been socialized to protect their emotional selves. In that instance, when we're talking about it as like this sort of transactional secrets for sex, what that really is like a behavioral manifestation of what we're asking for, which is a sense of mutuality and reciprocity. You want me to give you something that I value. Well, show up in the relationship that in a way that shows me you're committed to it by giving me something that you value, right? And so it doesn't, I think that we think about mutuality as we both give the same thing, right? Like it's 50-50 or 100-100, when it comes to whatever, whether that's bills or childcare or chores around the house. And I think the assumption is when we say we want mutuality, that the way we give into the relationship is going to always look the same. And I think anybody who's been in a significant relationship will know that the way you give, the way you pour into, the way you make deposits in your partnership is going to look vastly different mostly because you are two different people and you're going to have different strengths to bring to the relationship. So I think if we can stop sort of measuring it by the unit of, well, I'm giving you this and you're giving me that, and more so thinking about, well, we're both giving into the relationship. We're both making deposits for the sake of something that we hope will grow into whatever we want. Then it becomes, I think, a little bit more of a viable and sustainable way to do relationships versus measuring what I'm giving against what I believe is the value of what you're giving, right? Which is going to be different inherently, again, going back to the way that we're differently socialized. So just wanting to zoom out, I don't necessarily agree with something that was said earlier about relationships necessarily being transactional, but I do think they require intention and that we each are responsible for, if we want a sustainable relationship, pouring into the relationship based on our strengths and what we have to offer, which will be different because we're different.
Wait, Joy, could you break that down to as far as like, I was going to ask you how so if relationships aren't transactional?
Because, so the shortest way I can say this is that I think about as relationships not as two become one, but as two become a third. Like 1 + 1 is 3. And I think we've talked about this, Terrence, before. And that the 3 is the relationship, your third and separate entity that each of you are pouring into, making deposits into, whatever you need to do to cultivate that third and separate entity. Because we understand that if the two of you are no longer together, then the relationship itself does not exist, right? And so when you come together, you're not becoming one entity, you are together creating a third entity. And so when you think about it from that perspective, then each of you are giving into this entity that you have said and declared as a valuable thing that you want to invest in. So it's not a transaction between two people doing things. It's two people looking to a common goal to say, here's why we're pouring into what we're creating together, right? So I'm not keeping score about who's doing what, who's putting in what deposits. I'm saying all the deposits are going into this relationship pot, and we're both benefiting from this relationship thriving in the ways that we can contribute to it doing so. So I don't think it's a transaction between two people. I think it's two people creating something that they determine is worth their investment for whatever gifts they have to pour into it.
Now are we okay? I got that. I dig that, but I'm also looking at it like, and to be clear, I'm not the one who said that, but I just want to go on record to say that. But I also want to say, when it comes to transaction, we're not necessarily talking about tangible things, correct?
No, not at all. I think any type of cake taking score, or I washed the dishes 3 times and you took the trash out only 2 times, or I think any of those kinds of things where we start to keep a tally on who we think is doing more. I think the question becomes in those instances, okay, it's not the thing, not the money, not the dishes, not the socks, not the kids picking up from soccer. It's not any of that. It is on some level that I feel like the effort and intention that I'm putting into this is not being reciprocated. So that's the conversation we need to have, not about how many times you did or didn't do a thing or how much money you invested or didn't invest into the relationship, but the fact that it's feeling unbalanced and I'm looking for ways to create a little bit more harmony in this relationship. That's the conversation.
But
Yeah.
The
maybe
transaction is taking place before the relationship itself it has been formed.
so
The
I was going to say that.
transaction is a secret for sex before you even decide that you want to pour into a relationship.
But like with the transaction and whatnot, or what's being poured into each other's cup, that's like once a person or once one side is starting to keep count. I mean, like human nature, generally speaking, it's probably because they're keeping count because it's like, oh, damn, the other person or the other side's not holding their end of the bargain, you know?
Right,
Yeah,
but
but
this
see,
is
this
why
the
it's
thing. I
important
don't. I
that
don't
you're
want you.
not pouring into each other's cup. You're each pouring to a mutual cup. That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying about
but here's the thing.
reframing
So,
it.
but here's the thing. Let's be clear. So, I never said that transaction was about keeping score. Transaction about keeping score, because that not necessarily, for lack of better terms, move the goalpost a little bit. What I'm actually saying. What I'm saying is a transaction could be anything I need from you and anything you need from me for us to even try to even be a thing. When a lot of these things comes out in conversation, how we meet, how we date, what do we talk about these conversations, the type of things you like in a man, the type of things I like in a woman, all these things can be transactional, whether we're mentioning them or not.
But
Right?
that's data collection. That's data collection,
For
right?
sure.
That's me saying.
But
That's me saying. So here's the thing: is we can agree about the elements that can make up a healthy relationship. Trust being one of them,
for
right?
sure. Right.
So when we go from just meeting you to deciding that I'm going to have a family with you, marry you, have kids, all the things, trust falls on that spectrum from at every point in the relationship, from meeting to marrying, right? And so if we're saying that, the question then becomes, how do we differentiate the various stages? And in my estimation, the answer to that question is, it's not that I trust you, because I want to be able to trust you at every phase of this. It's what I trust you with. And so earlier in the relationship, what we're doing is exposing the parts of ourselves to say, can I trust you with this? Can I trust you with this? Can I trust you with this? Which is why the thing that we've been taught to prize and value so much is the last thing that we're both fighting not to have to share too early on, right? Because what I'm saying early on is, can I trust you with this? Can I trust you to be on time and pick me up at the time you said you're going to be there? Can I trust that you're telling me the truth about what your name is and the fact that you're actually single and not in a relationship? Can I trust, right? Each time we interact and our relationship progresses, the question of not do I trust you, but what do I trust you with is what we're leaning into more and more
Yeah,
throughout the
and,
phases of the
and,
relationship.
and for me, like, well, I'll just finish it by this. I think when you come to that agreement, or when you guys are discussing this, I think that goes back to like your ego, as far as, yo, this is what I need, this is what I'm lacking, or this is what I want, or this is what I expect out of you. And if this is what you bring to the table and this is what I bring to the table, cool. But I think a lot of people have that ego and they're afraid to admit, yo, this is what I'm missing or this is what I need, because people have motives, and they have secret motives. They might say, yo, no, this is what I want, this is what I need, but they're not truly telling you what it is that they really want out of you because of their ego. And people have secret motives, whether people like it or not.
And I think even with that being said, with ego and how people decide to operate and what they're going to be transparent about or not with their feelings or whatever, and with Joy, when you were saying the trust things about how can you trust somebody, how can somebody show up for you in certain kind of ways where the trust factor is being built from the inception. From me, all that seems transactional. Every part of it, every part of the trust factor, every part of ego, and deciding what kind of person you need. If you're going to be vulnerable enough to say that, transparent enough, all these are transactions that none of us never have to say. It's like if I decide to meet or date someone, no matter how it happens, I can bump into you in a grocery store and then find you attractive, right? But there's things we as human beings have inside of us that attract us to people for different reasons. It could be how you grew up in your life, what you got going in your life, or neighborhood, environment, your parents. All these things can happen, but once your brain get to moving and your heart get to moving, you start to put these little pieces together about, oh, I like her, or I like him because this, or they're funny because you like humor. I need humor for somebody, so that can be a transaction. All these things can be transactions. It's now we can play semantics all day, right? But that's what I mean about we all move into these spaces wanting something from somebody. And the minute we don't get these things, then conversations are put in place, and we have to have these conversations to either restore or see what's going on in a relationship to keep it moving. We talked about it earlier in a relationship on the conversation about needing something from someone or the lack of, right? So in all these spaces, to me, this all sounds transactional. No matter if you talk about it or not, no matter how you build it, no matter what kind of trust you're looking for to, or somebody open up to you or show you what kind of trust level you need, because you need it. You need it. They didn't need it. Like, so that can be a transaction also. I'm not saying I'm dying on the hill to make it definitive to fight for the word transaction. I'm just saying how I see it also, that can also be a transaction to me.
All right, well, guys, listen. That sounds like a good way to wrap up the conversation. If there be no final words, we might have to actually do a part two on Thursday. This conversation really got good. Then we may do a part two on Thursday. We'll keep you posted. You can keep posted by following BTS and Twitter and inboxing us with your ideas for shows. We have some shows available. You can definitely jump on that. BTSN.watch is the website. Go check that out for some quality programming. This was our men versus women, the new East Coast versus West Coast BTSN Topical Tuesday. Shout out to you for coming through and sharing your amazing input. This was a great conversation. I laughed, and I was I was engaged the entire time. This was amazing. This was must see or must listen to. information. So we'll see you again on Thursday. We'll keep you posted. Tune in to BTSN. Check the Twitter page for our next time. Until next time, peace.